Patty Duke speechless after son's paternity test. Sean Astin. Sean Astin is an actor and has been acting since he was a child, and you may remember him from The Goonies. His mother is actress Patty Duke, so it should be no surprise that Sean grew up in the spotlight. Sean had a lot going for him. He had a successful career most of his life and had a wonderful mother who loved him and would do anything for him. The only thing missing in Sean's life was his father. He didn't know who his biological father was, and it wasn't until he was in his mid-20s that his three potential fathers took a DNA test and found out who his father was. Rumors. Sean is Patty Duke's first child, so he's been well recognized since he was a child. He was also the center of many rumors because Patty had been in a few different relationships around the time and wasn't sure who the biological father was. The rumors continued when Sean was old enough to understand, but his biological father wasn't confirmed until he was much older. February 1971. Sean was born on February 25, 1971, and his mother gave him her last name. She didn't do this because she was famous or because she was an Academy Award-winning actress, but because she wasn't sure who Sean's father was. Patty was in between relationships when she got pregnant with Sean and made her best guess based on timing. Desi Arnaz Jr. When she became famous, Patty was just a teenager, and her parents worried about her. They didn't want her to get mixed up with the wrong crowd, and her parents weren't happy that they found out she was dating Desi Arnaz Jr., the son of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. Patty was 23 when she met Desi Jr. and was still tying up loose ends from her first marriage to Henry Falk, who was 13 years older than Patty. Desi Jr. was 17 when he and Patty started dating, and her parents didn't think he could take care of their daughter. Around the time Patty started dating Desi Jr., she found out she was pregnant with Sean. Michael Tell. Patty and Desi Jr.'s relationship didn't last, and it ended before it even began. When the relationship ended, Patty started dating another celebrity. She didn't like the attention surrounding the relationship, and it became too much for the young actress. Patty wanted a private relationship, but she couldn't figure out how to keep her personal life out of the spotlight. But Michael Tell was there to help. Michael was a newspaper publisher and a rock promoter who was subleasing Patty's apartment, and he had an interesting and unconventional idea to help her. A wedding. Patty and Michael were practically strangers when he suggested they pretend to be a couple. He told Patty that their relationship would distract the press and the reporters would leave her alone so Patty could date whoever she wanted to. Michael told Patty that a relationship wouldn't be enough to keep the press away, and he convinced the young actress to marry him. And they had an actual ceremony to make the marriage appear real. Patty agreed, and she and Michael were married in 1970. The marriage lasted for just 13 days, and they decided to get an annulment. When the annulment was final, Patty moved on and lost touch with Michael, and it was as if they had never been married. John Astin. Patty's first relationship with a celebrity didn't work out, and she didn't want to date anyone in the spotlight until she met John Astin, who was famous for his role on The Addams Family. When he and Patty met, John was still married to his first wife, Suzanne Hahn, which caused problems when Patty found out she was pregnant. Patty was sure that John was Sean's father, and they married 2 years later. Sean did something at the wedding when he was 18 months old, causing everyone to believe that John was his father. Daddy. Sean was 18 months old when Patty and John got married, and John already had 3 sons from his first marriage and was proud to raise Sean as his 4th son. Even though it had never been confirmed, Patty and John were sure he was Sean's father. During Patty and John's wedding ceremony, Sean looked up at John and called him Daddy. John legally adopted Sean and gave him his last name, and Patty was finally happily married with a family. She felt she was finally free of the drama and pressure the press would cause and could finally relax and be happy. Divorce. Patty and John were happily married for 13 years when things started to fall apart. The couple divorced in 1985, and Patty had to figure out where she and Sean would live. Things were changing so much in their lives, so Patty decided to make a confession to her son. When his parents divorced, Sean was already a teenager, and Patty thought he was old enough to handle the news. She told Sean that she wasn't sure who his father was, and she mentioned Desi Arnaz Jr. Sean thought Desi Jr. was his dad. When Patty told Sean that Desi Arnaz Jr. could be his father, Sean wanted to meet him. Sean called his potential father and told him that Patty thought he could be Sean's dad, and he wanted to meet Desi right away. Desi Jr. agreed to meet, and the two hit it off immediately. During an interview, Sean said that Desi Jr. loved him, and Sean loved him too, considering him a second dad after John Astin, who raised and adopted him. Sean thought he had finally found the missing piece in his life, but this isn't where the story ends. A relative reaches out. Most people have met or know of their relatives by the time they're 36. And it's rare to have a long-lost relative reach out in your mid-20s, but that's what happened to Sean. When a man reached out to tell Sean they were related, Sean was confused. The man on the phone told him they were related and believed that Michael Tell, who Patty had been married to for 13 days, was the father. But Sean doubted him. The man remained adamant that Michael was his father, so Sean decided to look into it. More questions. Sean had no idea who his biological father was because his mother never provided concrete proof. When the story leaked and the tabloids picked it up, things got worse for Sean, and the whole world knew about Sean's paternity problems. After meeting the man who claimed that Michael Tell was his father, Sean finally decided it was time to find out the truth. If John and Desi Jr. weren't Sean's biological fathers, then there was a chance that he could be Michael Tell's son. Second-guessing himself. Sean didn't grow up knowing who his biological father was, but it didn't affect his life. Sean's career was going great, and he married Christine Harrell in 1982, and they were very happy together. Sean was also happy to have grown up with John Astin and Desi Jr. as father figures, and he wasn't sure if it would be worth finding out the truth or if it would be best to leave it alone. The stories about Sean's paternity had died down, and he wasn't sure he wanted to open up that can of worms again, only to be harassed by the paparazzi and on the cover of every tabloid. Sean thought about it for a while and finally made a decision. Sean takes the test. After thinking about it for a while, Sean decided to go through with the paternity test. Fortunately, John, Desi Jr., and Michael Tell were all willing to take the test and find out which of them was Sean's biological father 25 years after he was born. Sean wasn't sure if all three men would be willing to take time from their lives to take the test, but he was wrong. All three men wanted to know if they were Sean's biological father, so they were more than willing. Finally, the truth was going to come out, and Sean couldn't wait. He hated not knowing who his biological father was, and he was tired of people speculating about it, so it was now or never. Michael Tell is the father. It felt like forever for the test to come back for everyone involved, and Sean was thrilled when he got the call that the DNA tests were in. The test revealed that Michael Tell was Sean's biological father, leaving everyone stunned, including Patty. She only married Michael for a publicity stunt, and the two never spoke after. But DNA doesn't lie, and Michael was definitely Sean's father. If you look at the photo of the two men, you can see the family resemblance between the two, and unfortunately, it took Sean and Michael 25 years to learn the truth. Sean was finally happy to know the truth and looked forward to getting to know his father. Patty was happy. The identity of Sean's biological father haunted Patty for almost 26 years, and not knowing was hard on the actress. She had already been dealing with a lot after being diagnosed with bipolar disorder and was very open about her diagnosis. She became an advocate for further research and funding for mental health issues, and she hoped that learning the paternity of her son was a weight off her shoulders. What did she think about the DNA results? You're about to find out. She didn't believe it. Patty always had her own beliefs regarding the true identity of Sean's father and didn't believe the test was correct. She said she didn't buy the test, but would support her son's truth as long as he respected hers. Patty admitted to her son that she knew what she knew to be true. We all know that DNA doesn't lie and Michael has to be Sean's father, but Patty wasn't willing to accept the results 100%. But she was happy that her son was happy. Many people believed that Patty was in denial and hoped that either John or Desi Jr. was her son's father because they had already loved and bonded with Sean, but Sean had no contact with William since their divorce decades earlier. He wasn't the man she hoped had fathered her child. 3 dads. Sean was confused about his father for most of his life, and 2 men had already stepped up and loved Sean like a son. He kept a positive attitude and wanted a close relationship with each of them. John Astin was the man who raised Sean for 13 years and gave him his last name, and Sean said their bond would never weaken. He considered Desi Jr. his godfather, and Sean said that you have a powerful love bond that can't be broken just because Desi Jr. isn't his biological father. He also got to know William Tell better and said he was a great guy. A blessing. Many children grow up without fathers, which can be very hard for some. Having an absent father can affect children when they're young and through adulthood. Sean never had to worry about growing up without a father because he was blessed to have 3 fathers throughout his life, even though only one was his biological father. People say it takes a village to raise a child, and Patty was grateful for all the men in Sean's life who helped to raise him, were there for him, and never felt that he didn't have a father. Patty was grateful to John Aston, Desi Arnaz Jr., and Michael Tell for accepting his son and loving him. And Sean was thrilled to finally know who his biological father was, and that all 3 men still wanted to be part of his life.